Admiral Vex stood at the center of the Oblivion Spear's command bridge. Stars stretched across the screen before him, but his eyes were fixed on one small blue planet. Earth, he said quietly. The crew around him worked in silence. Most of them believed this would be just another easy victory. Vec had led over a dozen planetary conquests. Some of the enemies had been smart. Others had been tough, but all had fallen. None had been human. Scans still show no threat, said his sensor officer, young gray-scaled alien with large black eyes. No power surges, no defensive networks. Their satellites are offline? No satellites? Vec asked. The officer nodded. Correct. Earth seems blind, like they shut everything off. That was the first thing that made his stomach twist. No species ever turned off their sky during an invasion, not unless they were hiding something. Launch a probe. Quietly. Probe shot forward, cloaked in stealth tech. It reached low orbit within seconds. Everyone waited as the data came in. Admiral, there's something strange, the officer said. I'm reading, yes, there are energy signatures, just not above ground. They're coming from underground, ... Deeply buried. How deep? Hundreds of meters, beneath cities, forests, mountains, power spikes in perfect rows, like networks. Military bunkers, someone guessed. Too many, the officer replied, and too organized. Vec felt the chill again. Earth wasn't unprepared, was silent. Like a calm ocean before a deep storm. Then the lights on the bridge flickered. What was that? He barked. Interference, sir, from the surface. Impossible. You shouldn't be able to touch our systems. It's not coming from a weapon, the tech officer said, eyes wide. They're broadcasting. On our frequency? Before Vec could speak, the screens turned black. Then a single image appeared. Earth, slowly rotating, calm, peaceful. A voice followed low, confident and human. Attention, Empire. God, we see you. Welcome to Earth's doorstep. You came looking for prey, but walked straight into the hunter's den. The bridge froze. How did they break into our secure? Comes, Vec asked, furious. The human voice continued, louder now. You've been watching us? But we've been watching you longer. You think we're weak, primitive? That was your first mistake. Suddenly, the stars around Earth lit up. No, not. Starships. Thousands of them. Unmarked. Cloaked. Silent. Now active. Alarms rang across the Oblivion Spear. As enemy contacts appeared from every angle. All sectors reporting incoming vessels. The weapons officer shouted, They're surrounding us. No warning. No launches from the surface. They were already in space, cried another. On screen, Earth's orbit changed from peaceful emptiness to a swarm of cold. Sleek, black ships, human ships. Vec stood frozen. That's not possible. They've been here, said his second-in-command the whole time. A second voice came over the comms, clearer now, this one younger, sharper. I'm Commander Juno of Earth's Orbital Guard. We suggest you leave. But if you want to stay well, we love a challenge. Without waiting. The first wave hit. The Empire's top cruiser shuddered as energy beams sliced past its shielding. Fast, focused, precise. What kind of weapons are those? Vec shouted. Unknown, the engineer called. But they're targeting weak spots weapons, bays, engine ports, sensor arrays. Not random. More hits. Lights dimmed. Fire back, Vec barked. Our weapon systems are slow to lock these. Ships are moving too fast. On the screen, one of the Earth's ships spun mid-space, reversed direction in an instant, and fired a beam directly into a communications dish. That cruiser went dark. They're jamming our targeting. Another explosion. Second cruiser lost a stabilizer, spinning out of formation. Pull back, Vec ordered. Regroup near the outer moon. Late Admiral, the helm said. Quietly, Earth's second moon, one the Empire thought, was natural, cracked open. Inside was a full fleet of human warships, fresh, untouched. They've been waiting, the sensor officer whispered. For years, the human voice returned. We didn't start this war, Juno said. But we finished it the day we saw your first scout ship. You wanted to test us? You're welcome to try. Vex stepped back, breathing heavy. This wasn't war. This was a trap, and Earth had set it long before the Empire ever saw them. Then came the final words that turned the blood in his veins to ice. "You wanted easy prey," the human said, "but you just woke up the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Then all channels cut, and the real fight began. Admiral gripped the edge of the command table as the Oblivion Spear rocked again. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Shouted over each other, trying to make sense of the chaos. How did they hide so many ships? Vex shouted. "We don't know, sir," yelled the sensor officer. "Our scanners never picked them up. It's like they bent light or enough. Regroup the fleet. I want formation Deltanine, now." But there was no time. The human ships didn't fight like anything the Empire had seen before. They didn't line up or follow expected tactics. They darted in and out of fire range, striking fast, then vanishing again. Each hit they made was deliberate, and every shot seemed to know exactly where to hurt. Vex stared at the screens, watching as one of his smaller cruisers tried to escape Earth's orbit. 3 human fighters locked onto it instantly, weaving like insects, then cutting into its engines with precise laser beams. The ship burst into flames, spinning out of control. "Sir, our second cruiser is down," his officer reported. "Survivors?" Vex didn't answer, just watched the screen in disbelief. Earth had always seemed chaotic in the reports. He divided governments, endless arguments, countries fighting each other over small differences. Their culture was noisy, strange, even foolish at times. But none of that matched what he was seeing now. This was not a planet that lacked unity. This was not a people who didn't know how to fight. They had just been pretending, and they were very good at pretending. From across the bridge, his communications officer spoke. "Admiral, we're receiving another message from the humans. This one's different." "Put it through," Vex said sharply. The screen lit up again. This time, the image showed a human in a black uniform, sitting calmly at a metal table. The room behind him was cold, gray, and silent. He wore no armor, no weapons, just a headset and a confident look in his eyes. "I'm Commander Elias," he said, "and I've studied you." Vex raised an eyebrow. "We've read your movements. We've watched your fleet patterns. We listened to your scouts, and we've built a response. You see, Admiral, while you were watching us, we were learning how to fight you. You think you've won?" Vex said aloud, hoping the human could hear him. Elias smiled. "No, not yet. And we're not trying to win, not right away. We're testing you, measuring you. Because we know this is only the first wave." His eyes narrowed. "And when the next wave comes, we want to be better." Vex turned to his officers. "Cut the signal." "Sir, we can't. It's not being broadcast, it's hardwired through a signal loop. They've already connected." On the screen, Elias leaned closer. "You see, we don't just fight back. We evolve. Every second you spend near Earth, we learn faster. We improve. If you think these ships are all we have..." He paused, smiling wider. "You haven't looked deeper." The screen blinked off. "Admiral," cried the weapons officer. "New contact beneath Earth's oceans. Massive energy signatures rising from the deep. Underwater?" Vex repeated, "Yes, sir. We're detecting launch trails. They're firing from below the surface." The bridge shook hard again. Vex stumbled and caught himself on the railing. "Report. Weapons from the ocean just hit our third cruiser." "Gone, sir? Completely destroyed? By underwater weapons?" Vex whispered, "Yes. They had launched bases under the sea. I didn't even think to scan there." Vex stared at Earth on the screen. The blue oceans that had seemed peaceful now hid weapons powerful enough to destroy a warship in one hit. Then the stars flickered. No, they moved. Ships uncloaked above the planet. Not a few, hundreds, maybe thousands more, all around the fleet. Full encirclement, the tactical officer whispered. "They waited until we committed. And now," didn't need to finish the sentence. The trap was closed. In the center of the screen, a new message appeared. It's just 6 words. "This is your last warning. Leave." Vex clenched his jaw. "Prepare for hyperspace jump," He growled. "We retreat. Now." But the navigation officer was pale. "Sir, we can't." "Why?" "Not. The jump corridor is blocked. They've locked it. With a gravity net. They locked hyperspace," Vec whispered. "They planned this from the start." Then the final report came in, sir. "Another fleet is coming. From Mars. Human reinforcements." Vec's heart sank. Earth wasn't defending itself. Earth was hunting. The red planet glowed faintly on the edge of the screen. Vec's hands trembled as he stared at the fleet rising from Mars. More human ships. Bigger this time. Heavier. These weren't like the fast fighters from Earth's orbit, these were. Carriers, destroyers, and capital ships. "They've built full military fleets on Mars?" Vec asked, barely believing his own words. "Yes, Admiral," the officer answered, voice tight. "We're reading over 2,000 ships. They're coming in fast. How did our scouts miss this? They must have shielded the shipyards or disguised them to look like mining colonies." The truth was clear now. Earth hadn't just prepared for defense. They had created a multi-world military force, and they had done it quietly, right under the Empire's nose. Vec looked around the bridge. The fear was starting to show on his crew's faces. The calm, cold control they usually had was cracking. These soldiers were trained to fight enemies with less power, less strategy, but this was something else. "Focus," he barked. "Bring our remaining ships into tight formation. Activate full shields." "Admiral, there's a problem," said the engineering chief. "Our shields are already dropping. Human energy weapons, they're overheating our systems faster than we can cool them." Then root emergency power. A sharp flash hit the screen. Another of the Empires. Ships broke apart, exploding into a trail of fire and debris that made 3 down. One remained Vec's own command ship. The screen lit up again with a new message. This time it was a live video feed from the human fleet. A woman stood at the front of a command bridge. Her dark uniform had a silver star on the chest. Didn't look angry or nervous. She looked calm, cold. "This is Admiral Carolyn of Earth Solar Defense Command. We will not allow the Galactic Empire to enslave our people, our worlds, or our future." Vec stepped forward, glaring at the screen. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "You've made an enemy of the most powerful force in the galaxy." Lynn didn't blink. "We understand perfectly. You thought Earth was unprepared? You thought humans would break easily, but you were wrong." Vec's fists clenched. "You won't win. Even if you beat this fleet, more will come. Thousands of ships, millions of troops. You can't stop us." Lynn's eyes narrowed. "Counting on it." That stopped Vec cold. "Excuse me?" he asked. "We want you to come," Lynn said. "We want the Empire to send everything. Because every ship you send is another ship we'll learn from. Another system we'll expose. Another tactic we'll improve on." "You're mad," Vec whispered. "No," she replied. "We're ready." Yeah. The screen went dark again, and then came the silence, not from humans. From the Empire's own ships. "Admiral," said his comms officer, "we've lost contact with the second cruiser. No signal, no distress beacon. It's just gone. Gone." "What do you mean, gone?" "Erased, sir. It disappeared from sensors. We think the humans used some kind of energy pulse to disable it before destroying it." Vec felt his stomach twist. The battle wasn't just going badly. It wasn't a battle at all. It was a hunt. The humans had taken apart his fleet, piece by piece. They'd cut off every escape route, shut down every signal. Now they were circling like wolves. His ships were prey. And they knew it. More alarms rang out, new signals behind. Us. Another wave coming in from the dark side of the moon. It's not possible. There's nothing there. There is now. Vec ran to the tactical display. It was true. Third wave. Stealth-class fighters rising from what had appeared to be rock. Lunar launch bays camouflaged as natural craters. The humans had hidden warships on the moon. One of the crew let out a soft noise, almost a whimper. Another started whispering in his native language, a prayer to the stars. Vec ignored them all. He stared at the screen, watching as more and more human ships appeared every orbit, every corner, every shadow filled with movement. Admiral, his second-in-command, said softly, "We're surrounded." The words hung in the air. We have to do something," another officer said. Vex stood still, not in fear but in awe. This was not a weak species. This was not a mistake. This was a trap set long ago with patience, skill, and terrifying precision. He looked back at the image of Earth, glowing gently below, beautiful, silent, deadly. "Send one final message to Earth," he said. "What message, sir?" Vec took a breath. "We surrender, asterisk." The message was sent. "I repeat," Vec said, into the coms, his voice strained but steady. "This is Admiral Vec of the Galactic Empire. We surrender." Silence followed. No reply came back from Earth. Just the hum of the ship and the blinking lights of the damaged systems. Vec stood still. Waiting, his officers glanced at each other. One of them spoke, voice shaking. Maybe they didn't hear us." "They heard," Vec said quietly. "They're thinking, deciding." He turned back to the screen. The thousands of human ships still hovered in orbit, weapons aimed. Unmoving, they weren't attacking, but they weren't retreating either. Finally, the screen blinked. A face appeared, Commander Elias again, sitting calmly in that cold metal room. This time he looked almost disappointed. "You surrender?" he said. "That's new." Vec nodded slowly. "We've seen enough. We came to conquer. Instead, we were outmatched, outsmarted, and surrounded." Elias tilted his head. "You're smart to realize that." "But what do you think surrender means here, Admiral?" Vec blinked. "We'll comply with your terms? You've won." Elias didn't smile. "That's the part you don't get. This was never just about winning." He stood up from the chair. Behind him, a giant screen showed the solar system. Every planet was marked, every orbit tracked. Ships were moving from Earth, Mars, the Moon, and beyond. Even deep space probes were active, forming a web around the entire system. "You came here thinking we were weak," Elias said. "But we've been preparing for this longer than you know. We didn't just wait to defend Earth, we waited to show you." "Show us what?" "That we're not afraid," Elias said. "And more importantly, we're not done." Vec frowned. "What does that mean?" But the screen went dark again. A second later, new alerts rang out from the bridge. "Admiral," sensor officer shouted. "New jump signatures detected outside the system." Vec turned sharply. "More human ships?" "No, sir. Imperial ships, reinforcements. 1, 2, 5. 12 cruisers incoming." Vec's stomach dropped. They were too late. Earth wasn't firing anymore, but the trap wasn't over. Now the Empire was walking deeper into it. "Try to contact them," Vec barked. "Warn them not to enter." "Can't," the comms officer said, eyes wide. "The human jammers are blocking long-range transmissions again. We're completely cut off." On the screen, bright flashes showed the new cruisers arriving in system. He didn't know what they were flying into. The Oblivion Spear shook slightly. "Energy. Surges from the human fleet," shouted another officer. "They're locking onto the new arrivals." "Tell them to retreat," Vec said through gritted teeth. "They're flying straight into a meat grinder." But it was too late. The first of the new Imperial cruisers entered range from behind. Asteroids and dust clouds, human ships shot forward. Their speed was impossible, like missiles with pilots. They tore through the first cruiser's shields in seconds, hitting engines, reactors, and targeting systems all at once. One cruiser exploded. A second followed moments later. The rest scattered, trying to regroup, but the humans were already. In the middle of their formation, it was over in minutes. The bridge went. Quiet Vec watched as pieces of metal floated in space. The new ships never had a chance. And the humans hadn't even sent their full force. Just enough to prove the point again. "We have to tell the High Command," someone whispered. "We will," Vec said, "but they won't believe it. Until it happens to them." He looked around at his tired, frightened crew. These were officers of the greatest empire in the galaxy. Trained, proud, elite. Now they looked small. Vec stepped forward. "Listen to me. All of you. What we've seen here changes everything. This is not just one battle. This is the beginning of a new kind of war." He pointed at the dark screen where Elias had spoken. They didn't beat us with strength. They'd beat us with knowledge, patience, planning. That's worse, because it means they'll keep doing it over and over. The officers nodded slowly. One of them, a young tactical commander, raised her hand. What if they don't stop at Earth? Beck didn't answer right away. He turned to the stars. That was the real question. Real fear. Because now, everyone in the Empire had the same thought. What happens when humans stop waiting and start moving? Admiral Vec sat alone in the war room of the Oblivion Spear. Around him, the lights were dim, and the distant hum of the engines felt louder than usual. Most of the crew had gone silent. They were waiting for orders, but none had come. Vec stared. At the data on the screen before him, it showed everything: the destruction of his fleet, the sudden appearance of the human ships, the rising number of weapons hidden across the system. Earth had been a fortress the entire time. Admiral, his comms officer said from behind, "We're receiving a message from Earth Command. A live transmission." Vec turned slowly. "Put it through." The screen lit up, and this time, a different face appeared. A woman in a white uniform with 3 silver bars on her shoulder. Her eyes were sharp but calm. She looked like someone used to leading in the middle of chaos. "I'm Admiral Sarah Chen," she said, "Supreme Commander of Earth's Interplanetary Defense Forces." Vec nodded politely. "Admiral Chen." She didn't waste time. "You offered surrender," she said. "We considered it. And—" Chen leaned slightly forward. "We're not interested in submission, Admiral. We're interested in truth." Vec frowned. "Truth." Chen nodded. "Your empire claims to bring order, peace, structure, but we've read your history. You don't build peace, you take it. You don't offer knowledge, you steal it. Don't rule, you dominate." Vec stayed quiet. Chen's voice dropped lower. "We've listened to every transmission your scouts sent in the last 50 years. We decoded your language long before your ships appeared. We knew your invasion schedule, your protocols, your formation strategies. We even know the names of your fleet admirals." "How?" Vec asked, barely above a whisper. "Because humans don't wait for threats to arrive," Chen said. "We study them, we prepare, and then we exceed them." Second screen lit. Up beside her showed Earth, then zoomed out, revealing not just Earth's orbit, but every planet in the solar system. All of them had military infrastructure, hidden shipyards, drone hives, defense arrays. Mars had 4 shipyards. Jupiter's moons had orbital artillery. Saturn's rings were lined with sensor beacons. Even the small, frozen body of Pluto was now a base. The Empire thought Earth was alone. They were wrong. Chen walked across her command room as she spoke. "You've conquered hundreds of worlds, but none like Earth. You thought we were divided. You mistook chaos for weakness. You mistook freedom for disorganization. But that mess you saw taught us something your empire forgot how to adapt." She turned back to the camera. "You brought us together, not with fear, but with focus." Vec stepped closer to his own screen. "So what happens now?" Teen studied him for a long moment. "That's up to your empire," she said.
Us.
"Leave. And we won't pursue, but return. And we won't hold back. If we don't believe you," she smiled softly, "then send more ships. Bring your strongest. We'll still be ready." The screen went dark again. Vec didn't move for a moment. Then he turned to his crew. "Prepare a secure transmission," he said. "We're going to tell the High Command everything." "But sir," his second-in-command said, "they won't believe this. They'll think we failed, that we're trying to hide weakness." "Then let them see what happens next," Vec replied. "Let them send more fleets. Let them come. Only then will they understand." The ship began to send. The ship drifted. Silently above Earth, still surrounded by human vessels. The humans hadn't destroyed them. They had allowed the ship to survive for now. But as Vec watched the stars, he could feel the change. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and Earth had done it without firing the first shot. The Empire had always seen itself as unbreakable. But it had never faced a species that learned this fast, struck this hard, or worked together. In such quiet unity, for the first time in his long career, Vec felt something new. Not defeat, not shame, respect, and something close to fear. The journey back to Imperial space was quiet. Admiral Vec stood near the observation window, watching. Stars blur past as the Oblivion Spear moved through hyperspace. The ship was damaged, but alive. The crew was silent, each one processing what they had just experienced. No one spoke of victory. No one spoke of bravery. Because what happened near Earth wasn't a battle, it was a warning. Approaching home sector, the navigator reported. Vec nodded without turning. Soon, they would face the High Command. He had reviewed the footage 100 times on the way back. Earth's defenses, the hidden fleets, the technology, the speed at which humans adapted. He knew what he had to say. But he also knew most would not believe it. When the Oblivion Spear finally reached the capital, a delegation of Empire officials waited at the docks. Their uniforms were perfect, their expressions confident. They hadn't seen the fear yet. They hadn't heard the laughter of human pilots, flying circles around their elite fighters. Vec walked straight into the Grand Council chamber, the High Command sat in a row above him, looking down. They didn't ask for greetings, Admiral said Chancellor Threx. A tall, silver-skinned alien with bright orange eyes. You returned alone. 3 ships went out. Yes, Chancellor, Vec said. Where are the others? Destroyed. The chamber grew quiet. The council members exchanged uneasy looks. Destroyed. By whom? Another asked. By Earth. Threx narrowed his eyes. The primitive world? Vec looked up. They're not primitive. It's not anymore. You were sent to bring Earth into the Empire, a third official snapped. You come back with failure and fear. I come back with truth, Vec replied. He explained everything, how Earth had built fleets in secret, how they had predicted the Empire's moves, how their ships moved faster than expected, and their weapons pierced through advanced shielding. He told them about the moon bases, the Mars fleets, and the silent way humans had turned their entire solar system into a battlefield. When he finished, the council sat still. Then Threx leaned forward. You were tricked, he said coldly. You were shown only what they wanted you to see. You fell for it. Earth cannot stand against the full strength of the Empire. Vec said nothing. It expected this. You will not spread fear in this room, Threx continued. We will send a proper fleet, 100 warships. We will show this Earth what true power looks like. Vec took a breath. They want that. Threx paused. What? They want you to come, Vec said again. They've been waiting. They've prepared. If you send more ships, they won't run. They'll welcome the challenge. Challenge, Threx laughed. They are outnumbered, outgunned. They're just a single world. Vec shook his head slowly. They are not just a world. They are an idea, and that idea is spreading. One of the younger council members stood. What do you mean? Vec tapped the display panel beside him. A map appeared in overlay of Imperial territory, but parts of it were flashing now. Minor rebellions, lost supply lines. Broadcasts traced to unknown sources. Since the battle near Earth, Vec said, dozens of small worlds have stopped responding. Pirates are hitting Imperial ships with new tactics. Rebel groups are quoting human phrases. Somehow, humans are already reaching them. Propaganda, someone muttered. Or inspiration, Vec replied. Another voice echoed from the back of the chamber. What if he's right? Heads turned. A senior admiral stepped forward, Admiral Telos, known for his victories across 3 sectors. I've seen the reports too, Telos said. Some of our systems are reacting to Earth's message. It's not because they want to join humans, but because they've never seen someone say no to the Empire. And when Threx stood. We are the greatest power in the galaxy. For now, Vec said. The room froze. He looked up at them one last time. They fought as one. No species we've conquered has done that. And they learn. Fast, faster than we can plan. You suggest surrender? Threx asked. No, Vex said. I suggest caution and respect. He turned to leave the chamber. You can send your fleet, he added. When they don't return, don't say you weren't warned. He walked out in silence. Behind him, the High Command argued. Ahead of him, in his heart, Vex saw Earth again. Not as a target, but as the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen. The stars were different now. Admiral Vex stood alone in his quarters aboard the Oblivion Spear, staring out the window. The ship had been repaired, its hull polished, systems restored. On the surface, it looked strong again. But Vex knew that. Truth, the Empire would never be the same. Messages from across the galaxy poured in every day. Some were official, warnings, Bed's warnings, others were not. Secret transmissions, rumors, whispers of something spreading through the stars. Hope not for the Empire, for those who had lived in its shadow. One of his aides entered quietly. Sir, the young officer said. The human transmission. It's broadcasting again. Vex nodded, put it through. The lights dimmed and the main screen lit up. This time, there was no one speaking. Just a logo, a simple design, a circle made of stars, wrapped around a blue earth. Then, a message appeared in bold white letters. You are not alone. The Empire is not invincible. We proved it. So can you. What? Below that, a second line. United Human Front, for all free worlds. Vex read the words carefully. They had no weapons in them, no threats, just an idea. But he felt its power. He could imagine what it meant to a species on the edge of extinction, or a colony living under a flag it never chose. He looked over at his officer. How far is it spreading? Over 50 systems have picked it up. Few are even refusing shipments from the Central Fleet. Vex took a slow breath. What does the Council say? They're furious. They want to block the signal. Jam it. Too late, Vex. Said it's not a signal anymore, it's a spark. The aide hesitated. There's more. The humans. They've moved. Vex turned sharply. Moved? Yes, sir. They've launched deep-range exploration ships. Some are heading toward Outer Empire space. Some are heading beyond known charts. They're expanding, they're searching. Vex didn't reply. He had expected this. The humans didn't seem interested in sitting still. They weren't guarding their borders anymore. They were moving outward, boldly like fire spreading in dry grass. Another report came in hours later. A human ship had entered a neutral sector once claimed by the Empire. But instead of landing with weapons, they landed with supplies. Medical help, engineers. They repaired power grids and rebuilt. Homes in a village destroyed by an old skirmish. They didn't ask for loyalty, they just helped. And the people remembered. A week later, Second World flew the human symbol over its capital. It's not in conquest, but in support. In hope, Vex sat down in silence. For centuries, the Empire had conquered through fear. It had grown through control. Its enemies never stood together, never lasted long. But Earth hadn't used fear. Earth had used belief. He activated the comms. Himself this time, open a channel to Admiral Sarah Chen. Earth Command. His aide blinked. Sir, you want to speak to her? She answered. Moment passed. Then the screen lit up. Chen appeared again, calm and strong. Her face didn't show surprise, only curiosity. Admiral Vex, she said. I wondered when you'd call. He nodded slowly. I didn't come to argue or threaten. She smiled. Slightly, I didn't think you would. Vex leaned forward. Why now? Why push so far, so fast? You could have stayed hidden, protected Earth, lived in peace. Chun's eyes were steady, because peace without freedom isn't peace. Because someday someone worse than your empire will come. We want to make sure this galaxy is ready. Vex was silent. Chen added. And because we believe there's something better than ruling over others. Vex looked at her, and what's that? Standing beside them, she said. Then she ended the call. The screen went black. Vex sat for a long time. He understood. Now, the humans hadn't just won a battle, they had changed the rules. Across the stars, the Empire still had fleets, still had weapons. But people, whole species, were beginning to ask questions. What if the Empire could be challenged? What if someone already had? Ak looked up. He didn't know what the future held. But he knew the humans weren't done. They weren't fighting for territory. They were fighting for something far more dangerous. An idea. And in the end, empire. No matter how big can conquer that.